With NBA stars like Steph and LeBron dominating the game, it's not often you see them in an awkward moment. Whether it's their hair falling out mid-game or kissing their opponent, you'd be surprised to see how awkward it can get. Despite his age, LeBron's game hasn't had many flaws over the years, as he's still pushing to be a top player in the league each season. But a pretty ridiculous and embarrassing situation came recently. Over the last few seasons, many have felt LeBron should just pull a Kobe and go bald, as his hair has been spotted having issues time and time again. At the beginning of the 2019 season, LeBron apparently had hair plugs and other hair surgeries to repair his lost hair, and in late October, during a game between the Lakers and Jazz in Staples Center, his hair started to fall out mid-game underneath a headband. Late in the game, while the Lakers were shooting free throws, you could see Anthony Davis yell something to LeBron from the bench, and then eventually pointed at his head, trying to get LeBron to notice without making a scene. But everybody saw and everybody knew what this was about immediately, and as LeBron got the hint and tried to fix the hair, the camera zoomed up right on his head with his hair looking completely messed up. Over the years, many have questioned what was going on with LeBron's head, as it's constantly changed since his high school days. But recently, his barber weighed in on LeBron's current hairline situation and said, "There's no dye, no additives, no preservatives." Everybody thinks he's dyeing his hair using temporary hair colorants, Biogen or black ice. It's all his hair. They still don't believe me. I get comments all the time. I've become numb to it. It used to bother me. It's not easy to hear that. LeBron is very tedious in how his hair is cut. The beard is the number one thing. He leaves the top up to me. I leave him less bald. He's my guy. He's my hardest haircut. He has good hair. You just have to cut it right. He just has a few fat patches around the chin that you have to take your time with. You have to have patience. It usually takes about 50 minutes. Not even superstars are immune to bans, and Steph Curry is no exception. During Game 6 of the 2016 NBA Finals, Curry had managed to pick up 5 fouls by 4 minutes 22 seconds of the fourth quarter. After his 6th foul was called on him for stealing the ball from LeBron that apparently had too much contact, Curry stormed up the court throwing his mouthpiece. The 6th foul had given him the ejection, and by throwing the mouthpiece, he'd gotten a technical foul. That mouthpiece had hit the wrong person too, hitting the son of one of the Cavs' minority owners who was seated in the front row. Curry spoke about the incident after the game, saying, "I've thrown my mouthpiece before. I usually aim at the scorer's table. I was off aim. Definitely didn't mean to throw it at a fan. That was obviously not where I was trying to take my frustration out." The move easily could have landed him some game suspensions, but he was lucky that the association ended up just laying down the law on him via fines. Steve Kerr defended his MVP. He had every right to be upset. He's the MVP of the league. He gets 6 fouls called on him. 3 of them were absolutely ridiculous. He steals the ball from Kyrie Irving clean at one point. LeBron James flops on the last one. Referee Jason Phillips falls for that for a flop. As the MVP of the league, we're talking about these touch fouls in the NBA Finals. Curry wasn't lying when he said he'd thrown his mouthpiece before. Just a season later, he was ejected again for throwing it. When matched up against the Memphis Grizzlies in the 2017-18 season, he'd thrown it again after complaining to a ref about a no call on a layup attempt. He threw the mouthpiece, which had apparently flown way too close to the ref, who responded by throwing a double technical back at him. Curry would state later he did not mean to throw it in his direction. Defensive pests like Patrick Beverley, or in this case Reggie Evans, will do anything they can to get into the heads of their opponents. Small shoves, elbows, it's all a part of the game when you're good at hiding it. Evans takes the cake, however, when it comes to defensive moves, as his go-to had been a nut grab. While being posted up by forward Chris Kaman in 2006, Evans decided to reach up under his legs to grab his junk. Evans is awarded negative points for stealth, as the move was painfully obvious. In reaction, Kaman quickly turned around to shove Evans down hard into the floor. Kaman later talked about the incident in a post-game interview, saying, "It just shocked me. It was so surprising at first. I was just like, wow." In a basketball game where you're playing for someone to grab your nuts, sometimes you're boxing out, you hit someone or whatever, but this dude reached from behind me, grabbed my nuts, and pulled them. Tried to rip them off basically. First time it happened to me, and I was just like, wow, I just got violated. Kaman went on to receive a flagrant foul for the shove, while Evans was given a flagrant as well as a $10,000 fine. One ref officiating the game later admitted that had the same happened to him, he would have knocked his teeth out. During the 2012 season, many reports had surfaced that suggested Howard had not been all too happy with his current role with the Magic, and wished Van Gundy had been fired. Van Gundy was eventually questioned about these rumors, which to everyone's surprise have been confirmed. Van Gundy talked about the beef prior to a game, saying, "When it comes out that one of the highest profile guys in the league has asked his coach to be fired, it's gonna be a story. I was told it was true from our people in management, right from the top." Just seconds after responding, Howard leaned into frame with his arm wrapped around Gundy, asking, "What's our main concern tonight?" Where Gundy awkwardly responded saying, "We have to stop Carmelo and the New York Knicks." The interaction lingered on for what seemed minutes, but was actually just a few seconds until Van Gundy excused himself from the interview. With Howard in the spotlight, reporters questioned Howard if the rumors had been true. Howard responded, saying that they had absolutely been false. Reporters then informed Howard Van Gundy had just seconds before confirmed the rumors. If you had thought this interaction with Van Gundy had been awkward, think again. Howard continued acting almost comically suspicious as he became suddenly defensive with reporters. Van Gundy was ultimately let go at the end of the season, and not long after, Howard was as well. Howard later talked about the moment, saying, "The first question is like, Dwight, they said you wanted to get Stan fired." I was like, "Oh my God," Howard recalled. "That was literally the worst day of my life. We had a game that night, and that was the worst game I ever played. Like, I could not hit the basket for nothing. And you would have thought, I don't know what was going on that night, but it was the worst ever." Contrary to popular belief, NBA refs are not immune to punitive action when they do wrong, and the infamous Tim Duncan smile ejection is proof of it. The Spurs were faced up against the Dallas Mavericks in late of the 2006-07 season. Duncan was given his first technical foul of the game with 2:20 left in the third quarter for arguing with ref Joey Crawford about an offensive foul. While the tech was argued by fellow Spurs players and staff, it was nothing too out of the ordinary even by today's standards. With Duncan now on the bench just a minute following the first tech, Duncan received another after allegedly bad-mouthing Crawford, which then prompted his ejection. However, it was found soon after that it was Crawford that instigated the exchange from the bench when he asked Duncan if he wanted to fight. Duncan responded with a smile, which then led to a second tech and then ejection. Justice was served, however. Crawford was cited for improper conduct and was suspended indefinitely by then NBA Commissioner David Stern, who stated, especially in light of similar prior acts by this official, a significant suspension is warranted. Although Joey is consistently rated as one of our top referees, he must be held accountable for his actions on the floor, and we will have further discussions with him following the season to be sure he understands his responsibilities. At the time, Crawford was on his 31st season with the NBA as an official and had been a ref for over 2,000 regular season games. He would respond to the actions taken against him, stating, "If my employer does not think that was acceptable, I have a problem." This wasn't Crawford's first time in hot water with David Stern. In the 2003 Western Conference Finals game against the same teams, Crawford called 4 tech fouls in the first 10 minutes. Except during this incident, he dished out ejections on then-coach Don Nelson and assistant coach Dale Harris. Stern warned Crawford after the incident, contending if he repeated these actions, the consequences would be severe. Following the incident with Duncan, there was some poetic justice served as well. Crawford broke what would have been his 21st season in a row officiating a playoff series due to the suspension, and Duncan went on to win a ring that same season. The suspension was eventually lifted from Crawford, who eventually retired in 2015. And in a 2012 interview with Crawford, he referred to the incident as life-changing, stating, "The Duncan thing probably changed my life. It was just you come to the realization that maybe the way you've been doing things is not the proper way, and you have to regroup, not only on the court, but off the court." I had seen a sports psychologist before that, but after, I saw him a lot more. It gave me a new perspective. For an NBA player looking to acquire a championship, the stakes don't get any higher than a finals appearance. Naturally, with the stakes so high, arguments between players are bound to happen. With that comes scuffles. However, there is no better example of a fight gone awkward than the one that took place in the 2017 finals. While battling for possession of the ball, David West had shoved Kyrie Irving in such a way that had caught the attention of Tristan Thompson, who did not take kindly to the shoving of his teammate. In response, the two got close, and by close, I mean real close. So close that West practically did everything but kiss Tristan, making for one of the league's most awkward technical calls in final